The desert sun beat down mercilessly on the weathered asphalt of Highway 95, turning the Nevada wasteland into a shimmering hell. Inside the gray Honda Accord, 9-year-old Leo Martinez sat frozen in the back seat, his small hands clenched into fists on his lap. The zip tie around his left wrist had rubbed the skin raw, hidden beneath his long sleeve. "You make one sound, kid, and I'll put you in the trunk," the man in the driver's seat said without looking back. His voice was flat, mechanical, the kind of voice that had said terrible things so many times it no longer registered emotion. "We've got 6 more hours. You can do this the easy way or the hard way." Leo said nothing. He'd learned in the past 18 hours that silence was survival. The man, Leo had heard him called Smith on the phone, pulled into a rundown gas station that looked like it had been forgotten by time itself. Pumps from the 1980s. Cracked concrete. A sun-bleached sign that read, "Desert Rose Fuel," with half the letters missing. Smith killed the engine and turned around, his pale eyes boring into Leo like drill bits. "I'm going inside to pay. You stay put. You understand? If you try anything, I will know. And then we're going to have a very different kind of conversation." Leo nodded, not trusting his voice. Smith got out, locking the doors with the key fob. Leo watched him walk toward the station, pulling out his burner phone, already distracted by another call. Probably another kid. Another transaction. That's when Leo noticed it. The car parked directly next to them. A beast of a machine, a 1969 Dodge Charger, black as midnight and coated in a thick layer of desert dust. It sat low and mean, chrome glinting through the grime. The kind of car that growled even when it was standing still. Through his window, Leo could see the owner inside the station, a massive man in a leather vest, bald head gleaming under the fluorescent lights, red beard like copper wire. He was buying cigarettes, his back turned. Leo's heart hammered against his ribs. This was it. This was the only chance he might ever get. His hands shaking so badly he could barely control them. Leo reached for the window button. It clicked. The glass descended 2 inches, maybe 3. Hot desert air rushed in, scorching his face. He glanced at Smith, still on the phone, pacing, his back to the car. "Now." Leo extended his small index finger through the gap, reaching across the narrow space between the vehicles. The Charger's door was hot enough to burn, the dust thick and perfect. Like a chalkboard. He began to write. H. His finger trembled. E. Sweat dripped into his eyes. L. The gas station door chimed. P. Leo yanked his hand back and punched the window button. The glass slid up just as the massive biker emerged into the sunlight, a pack of Marlboro Reds in his hand. Leo's breath caught. The man looked terrifying, scars on his knuckles, a patch on his vest that read, Iron Vanguard MC, and President. "Please," Leo prayed silently. "Please see it. Please." The biker walked to his car, his boots crunching on the gravel. He reached for the door handle and froze. Behind his dark aviator sunglasses, Declan Breaker O'Malley stared at the 4 letters carved into the dust of his door. Below them, a crude arrow pointing west, toward the gray Honda. Breaker's jaw tightened. Most people would have dismissed it as a prank. Some kid's stupid joke. But Declan O'Malley hadn't survived 2 decades in the outlaw motorcycle world by ignoring his instincts. And every instinct in his body was screaming that this was real. He watched the Honda's taillights as it pulled back onto the highway, heading west. He memorized the partial plate, 7TK. "Boys," Breaker growled into his radio mic, keying up the channel. "Form up. We got a situation." Static crackled. Then, "What kind of situation, Prez?" Breaker stared at the word help one more time. "The kind that ends with someone bleeding." The Iron Vanguard Motorcycle Club had been riding since dawn, 20 bikes strong, heading back to their Vegas clubhouse after a run to Reno. It should have been a simple ride, open road, clear skies, brothers at your back. The kind of ride that reminded you why you joined the life in the first place. Breaker had been driving the support vehicle this run, his beloved '69 Charger, because they were transporting gear too valuable to strap to bikes. Club treasury, documents, a couple of pieces that couldn't see daylight if the wrong cop pulled them over. He'd sent the main pack ahead half an hour ago. They were probably already at the next fuel stop, 40 miles up the road. But now, everything had changed. Breaker stood next to his Charger, the sun beating down on his shaved head, and made a decision that would define the next 12 hours of his life. He pulled out his phone and snapped a photo of the message in the dust. Then he keyed his radio again. Roadkill, you copy? A gravelly voice came back immediately. Copy, Prez. What's up? Need you to turn the pack around. All of them. Silent running. No sirens, no noise. I'm texting you coordinates. When you get here, spread out, stagger formation. We're tracking a vehicle. There was a pause. We hunting. We're hunting. Breaker climbed into his charger and fired up the engine. The 440 Magnum roared to life, all 375 horses screaming for release. But he kept it controlled, letting the Honda get distance. Can't spook the prey before the trap is set. He pulled onto Highway 95, keeping his speed reasonable, eyes locked on the heat-shimmered horizon where that gray Honda had disappeared. His mind raced through scenarios. Best case, it was a custody dispute, some divorced dad making bad choices. Worst case, Breaker's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He'd seen the worst case before. 6 years ago, on a ride through Arizona, they'd stumbled across a trafficking operation by accident, a semi-truck full of terrified kids at a truck stop. The club had called the FBI, done everything by the book. It had taken 3 hours for the feds to arrive. In that time, 2 kids had died from dehydration. Breaker had sworn he'd never wait for badges again. His phone buzzed. A text from Roadkill. 10 minutes out. What's the play? Breaker typed back with one hand. Relay pursuit. Rotate spotters every 5 miles. Don't let him see the same bike twice. I want him thinking he's alone until we're ready. Roger that. The Iron Vanguard had learned tactics from the best and worst sources. Marines, cops, and outlaws who'd survived decades on the run. They knew how to track. They knew how to hunt. And they never, ever let prey escape once they caught the scent. 20 miles ahead, in the gray Honda, Leo sat motionless as Smith drove in silence. The man's phone had finally stopped ringing. They were alone on this stretch of highway. Just empty desert on both sides, the kind of landscape that made you feel like the last person on Earth. Leo's mind raced. Had the biker seen the message? Would he understand? Would he care? Or had Leo just wasted his one chance? You're quiet, Smith said suddenly, glancing in the rearview mirror. That's good. Smart. You're learning. Leo said nothing. The people you're going to meet, they appreciate quiet kids. Makes things easier. Smith's voice was conversational, almost friendly. That made it worse. You cooperate, they treat you okay. You make trouble. He let the sentence hang. Leo stared out the window, his reflection ghostly in the glass. He was 9 years old. He should have been in school right now, 4th grade, probably doing math. Instead, he was. A sound made him turn his head. In the distance, maybe a quarter mile back, a single motorcycle appeared. Black and chrome, moving fast but not racing. Just there. Leo's heart leaped. But he forced himself to stay still, to show nothing. Smith noticed too. Bikers, he muttered. Probably heading to some rally. He didn't sound concerned. The motorcycle maintained its distance for exactly 5 miles. Then, at an unmarked crossroad, it turned off. Leo's hope died a little. But 2 miles later, another motorcycle appeared. Different bike. Different rider. Same steady, distant pace. Smith checked his mirror again, frowning now. Behind them, invisible in the heat shimmer, Breaker drove his charger with the patience of a wolf tracking wounded elk. His radio crackled with updates every 60 seconds. Prospect checking in. Target maintaining 65 mph, still westbound on 95. Hammer here. I've got visual from the overpass at mile marker 127. Gray Honda Accord, 17 or 18 model. Confirmed single adult male driver. Appears to be one child passenger rear seat. Copy. Chains, you're up next. Take the visual at marker 132. Breaker smiled without humor. The Iron Vanguard was executing the relay perfectly. To Smith, it would look like random bikers on a random road. He'd never see the same bike twice. Never noticed the pattern. But Leo would notice. Smart kid. He'd written that message, hadn't he? He'd figure out what was happening. Hang on, son, Breaker thought. We're coming. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on Bluetooth. Mr. O'Malley? A professional female voice. This is Special Agent Reyes, FBI. We received a flag on your club's movements from state police. Are you currently engaged in? Not now, Reyes. Breaker cut her off. I'll call you back. Mr. O'Malley, if you're planning any kind of. He hung up. The feds meant well, but they were slow. By the time they mobilized, that Honda could be across state lines, and that kid could be gone forever. Some things couldn't wait for badges. Inside the Honda, Smith's unease was growing. Too many bikes. Could be coincidence. This was Nevada, and bikers loved these desert roads. But his survival instinct was prickling. He glanced at Leo in the mirror. You hungry? Leo shook his head. Thirsty? Another head shake. Use your words, kid. No, sir. Leo's voice was barely a whisper. Smith grunted. At least the kid was polite. Made things easier. The family in Seattle was paying premium for well-behaved merchandise. Quiet, smart, young. Leo checked all the boxes. Smith had done this run 17 times. Picked up kids from desperate situations, abusive homes, runaways, kids whose parents sold them for drug money, and delivered them to buyers who paid cash, no questions asked. He learned not to think about what happened after delivery. That wasn't his problem. He was just the courier. His burner phone buzzed. Text from the buyer. ETA? Smith typed back, 6 hours. On schedule. Another bike appeared in his rear view. Different model, different rider. This one wore a leather vest with patches. Smith's jaw tightened. He took the next exit, turning onto a smaller state route. A detour, but it would shake anyone following. The bike didn't take the exit. It sailed past on the highway. Smith relaxed slightly. But 3 miles down the state route, another bike appeared. God damn it, Smith muttered. Breaker's radio crackled. Prez, target just diverted to State Route 266. Think he's onto us. Maybe. Doesn't matter. Breaker took the same exit, his Charger hugging the curves. Reaper, chains, get ahead on 266 and set up at that diner near the junction. He'll need fuel or food soon. Let's give him a place to stop. Copy that. Breaker's phone rang again. FBI agent Reyes. He ignored it. The sun was starting its descent toward the horizon, painting the desert in shades of blood orange and deep purple. Beautiful, if you had time to notice. Breaker didn't. He was focused on one thing. The gray Honda, now visible a half-mile ahead, kicking up dust on the Tulane Road. The Dusty Rose Diner sat at the junction of State Route 266 and a frontage road that led nowhere in particular. It was the kind of place that served coffee strong enough to strip paint and burgers that sat in your stomach like ballast. A neon sign flickered in the gathering dusk. Open 24 hours. Smith pulled into the gravel parking lot, his stomach growling. He'd been driving for 6 hours straight, and the kid needed a bathroom break whether he admitted it or not. 3 motorcycles sat in the lot. Different models, different riders standing outside smoking. They barely glanced at the Honda. Smith killed the engine and turned to Leo. We're going inside. You're going to eat, use the bathroom, and keep your mouth shut. You understand? Leo nodded. If you try to talk to anyone, if you try to signal anyone, I will know. And you know what happens then. Yes, sir. Smith reached under his jacket and adjusted the Glock 19 in his waistband, making sure Leo saw it. Good. Let's go. They walked into the diner. The interior was exactly what you'd expect. Red vinyl booths, a long counter with chrome stools, country music playing softly from a jukebox. An older waitress with tired eyes and a Marlene name tag looked up from wiping down a table. Sit anywhere, Han. Smith chose a booth near the back, positioning himself so he could see the door. Leo slid in across from him, small and scared. 2 minutes later, the diner door opened again. Declan Breaker O'Malley walked in. He was even bigger up close, 6'3", maybe 250 pounds of muscle and scar tissue. His leather vest was decorated with patches. 1% Iron Vanguard MC. President. His arms were covered in tattoos that spoke of violence and brotherhood. He didn't look at Smith's booth. He simply walked to the counter, 3 stools down from where 2 of his riders sat, and ordered coffee. But Smith felt the weight of his presence like a physical thing. The waitress brought menus. Smith ordered a burger and pointed at Leo. Grilled cheese for him. Anything to drink. Water. Marlene nodded and headed to the kitchen. Smith watched the biker in the reflection of the window. The man just sat there, drinking his coffee, calm as a stone. But there was something wrong about the stillness. Predators were still right before they struck. Smith's phone buzzed. Another text from the buyer. Status? Smith typed. Delayed. 7 hours now. He looked up. The biker was staring directly at him in the window's reflection, aviator sunglasses removed, eyes like chips of blue ice. Smith's blood ran cold. He threw a 20 on the table and grabbed Leo's arm. "We're leaving." "But the food." "Now." They headed for the door. As they passed the counter, Leo stumbled, or seemed to, and his hand shot out to steady himself against the counter, right next to where Breaker sat. For a half-second, their eyes met. Leo's were wide, terrified, pleading. Breaker's were granite-hard and utterly certain. Then Smith yanked Leo outside, practically dragging him to the car. Breaker watched them go through the diner window. He keyed his radio mic, hidden under his vest. Confirmed. Child is in distress. Adult male is armed. Right hip concealment. This is real, boys. The two bikers at the counter stood up, dropping bills. Outside, 6 more motorcycles roared to life in perfect synchronization. Marlene, the waitress, looked confused. "Everything okay?" Breaker drained his coffee and stood. "No, ma'am. But it will be." Smith's hands shook as he fumbled with the key fob. That biker had seen him. Really seen him. Not just looked seen. He threw Leo into the back seat, slammed the door, and jumped behind the wheel. The Honda's engine turned over on the second try. In the rearview mirror, the diner door opened. The big biker walked out, followed by a stream of leather-clad riders. They all turned to look at the Honda. Smith stomped the accelerator. Gravel sprayed as he fishtailed back onto the state route, the speedometer climbing, 60, 70, 80. The bikes followed. Not chasing. Not yet. Just following. Pacing him. 3 bikes, keeping a steady quarter-mile distance. Smith's mind raced. How did they know? The message. Could the kid have done something at the gas station? But there hadn't been time, hadn't been opportunity. It didn't matter now. What mattered was losing them. He pushed the Honda to 90. The little 4-cylinder engine screamed in protest, but it held. The bikes matched his speed effortlessly. Then Smith heard it. A deep, rumbling roar that made the Honda feel like a toy. In his rearview mirror, headlights blazed through the dusk, twin high beams from a muscle car that looked like it had driven straight out of hell. The Black Charger. Smith's burner phone rang. Unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered. Breaker's voice came through, calm and cold. "You got 2 choices, friend. You can stop right now, let the kid go, and take your chances with the law. Or you can keep running, and we see how this plays out." "I don't know what you're talking about," Smith said, voice shaking. "This is my son. We're just—" I saw his eyes. Breaker's voice cut through the lie like a blade. "I've seen a lot of scared kids in my time. I know the difference between a kid scared of his dad and a kid scared for his life. So let's stop pretending." Smith hung up and threw the phone out the window. Bad mistake. Breaker's voice came through the Honda's radio speakers. He'd somehow hacked the frequency. "You're on State Route 266, heading west. In about 15 miles, this road rejoins Highway 95. You think you can make it to the state line before we catch you?" A dark chuckle. "Son, we've been riding these roads for 20 years. We know every exit, every cutoff, every place you could run. And we're already there." As if to punctuate his words, Smith crested a hill and saw his nightmare made real. The highway ahead was blocked. A dozen motorcycles sat across both lanes, engines running, riders standing beside their bikes. Not cops. Not authorities. Outlaws. The Iron Vanguard. Smith screamed and yanked the wheel hard right, sending the Honda off-road into the desert. The Honda bucked and bounced across the hardpan, sagebrush scraping the undercarriage. Smith fought the wheel, trying to navigate between rocks and gullies. Behind him, the sound of engines grew louder, but different now. Higher-pitched, more aggressive. He risked a glance in the mirror and felt his stomach drop. For motorcycles had left the road and were following him into the desert. But these weren't street bikes. They were dual-sport machines, built for exactly this terrain. They moved across the rough ground like water, effortless and fast. And behind them, impossibly, came the Charger. The muscle car shouldn't have been able to follow. It was a road machine, built for asphalt and speed, not desert off-roading. But Breaker drove it like he was possessed, the big V8 roaring, suspension somehow absorbing the brutal terrain. Dust plumes rose 20 feet behind him. Smith pushed the Honda harder. The needle climbed past 60, insane for this kind of ground. Leo was thrown around the back seat, crying out as he slammed against the door. Then Smith heard a sound that made his blood freeze, a gunshot. Not aimed at him, aimed at his tires. The rear driver's side tire exploded. The Honda swerved violently. Smith overcorrected, and suddenly they were spinning, dust and sky and ground all mixing together. The car slammed into a boulder with a sickening crunch. Silence. Smith's head throbbed. Blood trickled from his nose. The engine had died. The windshield was a spiderweb of cracks. Behind him, Leo whimpered. Smith grabbed the Glock from his waistband, chambered around, and kicked open his door. The Iron Vanguard formed a semicircle around the crashed Honda, 20 riders strong. They'd arrived from multiple directions, the pursuit team from behind, the blocking team from ahead, and 2 flanking groups that had circled through the desert. It was a classic pincer movement, executed with military precision. Breaker killed his Charger's engine and stepped out. The sun was touching the horizon now, painting everything in shades of crimson. His shadow stretched 30 feet across the hardpan. He walked forward slowly, his boots crunching on gravel. His riders stayed back, but their hands rested on various weapons, tire irons, chains, and in a few cases, firearms. Legal in Nevada, if you had the right permits. Which they did. Smith stumbled around to the passenger side of the Honda and yanked Leo out, putting the gun to the boy's head. Stay back. Smith's voice was shrill, breaking. I'll do it. I swear to God I'll. No, you won't, Breaker said calmly, still walking. You know why? I'm warning you. You won't because that kid is worth money to you. He's a commodity. You kill him, you get nothing. But if you hurt him, even a little bit. Breaker stopped 10 feet away. Then this stops being business and becomes personal. And trust me, friend, you don't want this to be personal. Smith's gun hand shook. Sweat poured down his face. I'm just the delivery guy. I don't ask questions. Yeah, you're just following orders. Where have I heard that before? Breaker's voice dripped contempt. He glanced at Leo, and his expression softened just a fraction. You okay, son? Leo, tears streaming down his face, managed a tiny nod. You wrote help on my car door, didn't you? Another nod. That was smart. Real smart. Breaker looked back at Smith. See, here's the situation. You got 6 rounds in that Glock. Maybe 7 if you keep one in the chamber. We got 20 people, and we're all real comfortable with pain. You do the math. One of the riders, a man with a long gray beard and a vice president's patch, spoke up. Want me to circle behind him, Prez? No need, roadkill. Our friend here is a businessman. He understands cost-benefit analysis. Breaker pulled out his own phone and held it up. See this? I've been recording this whole conversation. Already uploaded to the cloud. You harm that kid, and this video goes to every FBI office, every news station, every social media platform I can think of. Your face will be on every screen in America by morning. It was a bluff. Breaker hadn't been recording. But Smith didn't know that. What? What do you want? Smith's voice cracked. Let the kid go. Walk away. Disappear. That's option 1. And option 2. Breaker smiled without warmth. We see what happens when 20 outlaw bikers are left alone in the desert with a child trafficker. Spoiler, you don't walk away from option 2. For a long moment, nobody moved. The desert wind whispered across the hardpan, carrying the smell of creosote and dust. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. Smith's gun hand trembled. Leo whimpered, trying not to cry louder. Then several things happened very quickly. A sound split the air, the distinctive crack of a high-powered rifle. Not close, but not far. Smith flinched, instinctively looking toward the sound. It was all the opening Breaker needed. He moved with shocking speed for a man his size, covering the 10 feet in 2 long strides. His left hand shot out and grabbed Smith's wrist, twisting the gun away from Leo's head. His right hand came up in a brutal uppercut that connected with Smith's jaw with an audible crack. Smith dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Leo scrambled away, stumbling, falling. Breaker caught him with one arm, pulling him close. I got you, Breaker said softly. I got you. You're safe now. Leo collapsed against him, sobbing uncontrollably. The Iron Vanguard riders moved in, securing Smith with practiced efficiency. Roadkill zip-tied his hands behind his back while another rider, a woman with a shaved head and fierce eyes, kicked the Glock away into the sagebrush. Breaker knelt down to Leo's level, still holding him steady. What's your name, son? Leo. Leo Martinez. Leo. Good name. Strong name. Breaker smiled, and for the first time, it reached his eyes. You did real good today, Leo. That message you wrote? That was the bravest thing I've seen in a long time. I thought maybe you wouldn't see it. I saw it. And we came. Breaker stood, keeping one hand on Leo's shoulder. Now, we're going to call some people. Police, FBI, social workers. They're going to ask you a lot of questions. You think you can handle that? Leo nodded, wiping his eyes. Attaboy. Breaker pulled out his phone. The FBI agent had called 3 more times and dialed. Agent Reyes? Yeah, it's O'Malley. You still want to know what we're up to? Better get a chopper out to coordinates. He rattled off the GPS location. And bring social services. We got a kid who needs help. Mr. O'Malley, if you've interfered with. Lady, if we hadn't interfered, this kid would be in Seattle by morning, sold to God knows who for God knows what. So maybe save the lecture and just get your people out here. He paused. Oh, and we got a confession on video. The guy talked all about his operation. You're welcome. Another bluff. But by the time the feds arrived, Smith would be singing like a canary. Men like him always did when they faced real consequences. Breaker hung up and looked at his crew. ETA on authorities is 40 minutes. Let's make camp. Nobody touches our guest. He nodded toward Smith, who was conscious but dazed. But nobody lets him out of sight either. What about the Honda? Someone asked. Leave it. Evidence. The riders dispersed, setting up a perimeter. Someone pulled out a camp stove and started making coffee. Another rider gave Leo a bottled water and a protein bar. Breaker walked over to where Smith sat against a rock, zip-tied and beaten. You got lucky, Breaker said quietly. 20 years ago, we'd have buried you out here, and nobody would have ever found the body. But we're trying to be better, more civilized. He leaned in close. So instead, you get to spend the next 20 years in a federal prison, where they really don't like people who hurt kids. Good luck with that. Smith said nothing, staring at the ground. Breaker walked back to Leo, who was sitting on the tailgate of the Charger, wrapped in someone's leather jacket despite the heat. The kid was in shock, Breaker knew. It would hit him later. The fear, the trauma, all of it. But for now, he was safe. You got people, Leo? Family. My mom. She didn't know. My stepdad, Leo's voice broke. He sold me. For drug money. Breaker's jaw clenched. What's your mom's name? Sarah Martinez. We live in Boulder City. Okay, we'll get you back to her. Breaker pulled out his phone again and made another call, this time to a private investigator the club kept on retainer. Danny? Need you to do some digging. Sarah Martinez, Boulder City, Nevada. I need her address and phone number, and I need to know if she's safe to return a kid to. Yeah, it's urgent. He hung up and sat next to Leo on the tailgate. Can I ask you something? Leo said after a long silence. Shoot. Why did you help me? You don't even know me. Breaker looked out at the desert, at the sun, now just a sliver on the horizon. When I was about your age, maybe a little older, I was in a bad situation. Real bad. And nobody helped. Nobody came. He glanced at Leo. I swore if I ever saw a kid in trouble, I wouldn't walk away. That's all. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're home with your mom, and this is all just a bad memory. The FBI helicopter arrived 37 minutes later, rotors thumping the air, kicking up a dust storm that forced everyone to turn away and shield their eyes. It touched down 50 yards from the crash site, and 4 agents in tactical gear piled out, followed by Agent Reyes herself, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with the kind of face that had seen too much and believed too little. She walked straight to Breaker. Mr. O'Malley, we need to talk. Make it quick. Kid's been through enough. Reyes glanced at Leo, then at Smith, then at the 20 bikers standing around like a leather-clad militia. You know I could arrest you for vigilantism, kidnapping, assault. But you won't. Breaker's voice was flat. Because we just handed you a trafficker and enough evidence to roll up his entire network. I'm guessing he's got names, addresses, routes, everything you need to save a lot more kids. Reyes's jaw tightened. You should have called us immediately. I did call you. 3 times. You didn't answer. Because we were mobilizing a task force that would have taken 6 hours to deploy. Breaker stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. That kid would be gone by then, and you know it. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to take Smith into custody. You're going to verify Leo's identity and make sure he gets back to his mother safely. And you're going to forget that we were ever here. I can't just. Yeah, you can. Because the alternative is I hold a press conference tomorrow. Big tough biker saves kidnapped kid while FBI sits on their hands. How do you think that plays on the evening news? Reyes glared at him. Then, slowly, she smiled. You're an asshole, O'Malley. I've been called worse. Fine. But if I find out you or your club stepped over the line. We didn't. Everything we did was citizen's arrest and self-defense. All legal. Mostly legal, anyway. Reyes turned to her team. Secure the suspect. Get the kid processed for medical eval. She looked back at Breaker. We'll need statements from all of you. We'll cooperate. But Leo comes first. Two agents lifted Smith to his feet. He looked at Breaker one last time, and Breaker saw something in his eyes. Not defiance, not anger, but resignation. Smith knew what awaited him in prison. He knew he was a dead man walking. Good. A female agent, younger and gentler than the others, knelt beside Leo. Hi, honey. My name's Agent Torres. I'm going to take you to a hospital, get you checked out, and then we're going to find your mom. Okay. Leo looked at Breaker. Can he come? Torres glanced at Reyes, who shrugged. We can transport one civilian if the minor requests it. I'll ride with you, Breaker said. Make sure you get where you're going. The hospital in Vegas was sterile and too bright after the desert darkness. Leo was poked, prodded, examined, and declared physically healthy but emotionally traumatized. No surprise there. While doctors worked, Breaker's PI called back with good news. Sarah Martinez was clean. No criminal record, no drug use, no connection to her ex-husband's trafficking deal. She was a nurse at a Boulder City clinic, working double shifts to make rent after her husband abandoned her 3 months ago, taking Leo with him, claiming it was just a dad and son road trip. She'd filed a missing persons report 2 weeks ago when they didn't come back. She had no idea her ex had sold their son. She's at the hospital now, the PI said. Showed up 10 minutes ago. The FBI called her. Thanks, Danny. Breaker found Sarah in the waiting room, a small woman with dark hair and eyes swollen from crying. The moment she saw Leo through the observation window, she collapsed into a chair, sobbing with relief. Breaker approached carefully. Mrs. Martinez. She looked up, saw the patches on his vest, and her expression flickered with uncertainty. I'm Declan O'Malley. I'm the one who found your son. Understanding dawned, followed immediately by gratitude so fierce it was almost painful to witness. You saved him. Oh God, you saved him. He saved himself, ma'am. I just drove the car. The doctor emerged, giving permission for Sarah to see Leo. She rushed past Breaker without another word, and moments later he heard her voice through the door. Oh, baby. Oh, my baby. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Breaker turned to leave. His job was done, but Agent Reyes intercepted him. Smith is talking, she said. Giving up everyone. We've already made 4 arrests based on his information, and we'll make a dozen more by morning. We're going to save a lot of kids because of what you did today. Good. The kid's stepfather, Robert Martinez, we picked him up an hour ago. He'll be charged as an accomplice to trafficking. He's not getting out. Even better. Reyes hesitated, then extended her hand. Thank you. Officially, off the record, and completely deniable, thank you. Breaker shook it. Just doing what needed doing. One question. How did you know? How did you know it was real and not just some kid playing a prank? Breaker thought about the look in Leo's eyes at that diner. The terror. The desperate hope. Because I've been that scared before, he said quietly. And I know what it looks like. 3 days later, Breaker was in the Iron Vanguard Clubhouse, a fortified compound on the outskirts of Vegas, when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Hello. Mr. O'Malley? It's Sarah Martinez. Mrs. Martinez. How's Leo doing? He's getting there. Therapy, nightmares, all of that. But he's home. He's safe. Because of you. I'm glad. He wants to talk to you. Do you have a minute? Sure. There was a rustling sound, then Leo's voice. Mr. Breaker? Hey kid. How you holding up? Okay. Mom says I have to call you Mr. O'Malley, but you'll always be Mr. Breaker to me. Breaker smiled. I can live with that. I wanted to ask you something. The message I wrote on your car, do you still have it? Matter of fact, I do. Breaker looked out the window at his Charger, parked in the compound. He'd washed the entire car except for that one door panel. The word help was still there, preserved under a coat of clear sealant. Figured I'd keep it. Reminder that sometimes the smallest voices are the ones that matter most. Cool. A pause. Mr. Breaker? When I grow up, I want to be like you. No, you don't. You want to be better than me. Smarter, kinder, more patient. But I'll tell you what. You ever need anything, you call me. Anytime, any reason. You got that? Yes, sir. Good man. They said their goodbyes, and Breaker hung up. He walked outside to where Roadkill and a few other riders were working on their bikes. That the kid? Roadkill asked. Yeah. Good kid. Smart. The vice president grinned. You know the club's talking about giving you a new road name over this. I already got a road name. Yeah, but Breaker doesn't really fit anymore, does it? You didn't break anything this time. You fixed something. What are they calling me? Roadkill's grin widened. Shepherd. You know, like someone who watches over the flock. Breaker snorted. That's terrible. Yeah, but it's accurate. Breaker looked at his charger again, at the word help still visible in the dust and setting sun. Maybe Roadkill was right. Maybe it was time for a new name, a new chapter. The Iron Vanguard had always walked the line between outlaw and protector. Maybe it was time to lean harder toward the latter. Shepherd it is, then, Breaker said. Really? Yeah, but I'm keeping Breaker as a middle name, just in case someone needs breaking. Roadkill laughed and went back to his bike. Breaker stood alone for a moment, watching the sun paint the Vegas sky in shades of orange and purple. Somewhere out there, a 9-year-old boy was safe in his mother's arms. Somewhere out there, a trafficker was facing justice. And somewhere in the dust on a black Charger's door, a message remained, a testament to the fact that sometimes, in the right hands, even the smallest cry for help could change everything. Breaker smiled and headed back inside. Tomorrow, there would be another road, another ride. But tonight, he'd done what mattered most. He'd answered the call.